Hello, and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle, me, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. It's been a crazy trip. We're up to number 74 in the series. Looked at over 100 books, thousands of pictures, talked about a lot of press releases, magazine articles, videos. Going on year 3 of doing this, and it was all as a result of me wanting to find out what the heck is going on planet Earth. Number 73, we did a series, Transylvania Sunrise, with Peter Moon, publishing Radu Cinemar's book after he translated it to English. It was about a discovery in Romania of a facility inside a mountain that had some kind of electromagnetic force field protecting it. And it was discovered two ways. One, a hiker was on top of this mountain. Keep forgetting the name of this mountain. The Bucegi, B-U-C-E-G-I mountains in Romania. And he picked up something he saw on the ground. And poof, he became invisible to the people who were watching him. Apparently it was some kind of trap door. So somebody else went up to that spot, looked for him, saw the object on the ground, picked it up, and poof, he disappeared. So that created a little bit of a controversy. And secondly, with the satellites in space, a rather concerning issue a lot of people probably don't think about. But the powers that be, and there's the key, who are the powers that be and what can they do? We've been going over that in hundreds of hours of video materials, hence Freemasonry and Satanism, and all the occult secret groups that surround those two words. Masons, Freemasons, Rosicrucians, Bilderbergers, Bohemian Grove, Council of Foreign Relations, Heritage Foundation, Jesuits, Zionists, Nordics, witchcraft folks, Kabbalah folks, and lots of people in high places, kings and queens, who are so-called blue bloods. They control our world, and they have privy to the information of the satellites in space that can now photograph the Earth, like you going to the doctor and getting an x-ray for a broken bone or an object in your stomach that maybe you swallowed. And do they share that information with the rest of us, including other high-tech inventions and technologies with the rest of us? No. Worse than that. Like the Georgia USA Guidestones say, they see a very bright future, a golden age. And they see that to them there's just too many people. People they don't need is why they want the people to be gone. So here in the Bucegi Mountains, in the Transylvania Sunrise, the two videos we went over with Peter Moon, who added Radu Cinemar's book to under his name and had it translated into English, exposed a lot of goings-on and the exciting story about getting inside this mountain, finding the hollowed-out facilities, chairs that could only be seated by giants. 3 meter high was almost 5-6 feet was where you sat down. What are our chairs for a normal person is what, 2.5 feet, 3 feet? And the tabletops with the controls, only a giant standing there. You'd had to get on a ladder to look on the table. And apparently it had all kinds of holographic equipment. Do the peoples of the world know about this? Have they been informed? Has the information been shared? No, again, the elites have the information. And we explored a little bit about the government's recruitment of people who exhibited certain psychic abilities, unusual abilities. And as we are all aware, with the airports and TSA security everywhere, scanning everybody, x-raying them to get on a plane, and even trying to obtain DNA from most of us. It's a new thing coming in the future. They've been doing it. And of course, even the United Nations now involved in wanting to have radio transceivers, microchip everybody, installed on all the people because of the increased threat of terrorism. There's just too many people and there's too many terrorists. So this is a solution. And we know that's all bogus, false. They're creating the problem so they can bring about a certain solution that they want in this new technological age. So I know it's hard to believe that in this book that we just went over, that there is a facility inside a mountain that's hollowed out. I break the story in my videos, and I don't expect people to believe me, but it would be nice if people would do some research, leave some comments on my videos, and let's get to the bottom of this. So where does that take us next? This is series number 74, and I thought I would do this book. I had showed it earlier at the beginning of 73 series. Black Sun. Montauk's Nazi-Tibetan connection. What do the Nazis in Germany have to do with the Tibetans in the Himalayan mountain area northwest of China, in China? Look at the picture. What does all this have to do with reality? Does it have anything to do with reality? So I thought I'd do a little sidebar here to say that maybe reality is not what we think it is. I'm a collector of books. I read the books I collect. So I just grabbed a handful of my UFO books. UFOs, Past, Present, and Future. Robert Eminger. The real facts behind thousands of mysterious sightings. We're going to go over this stuff in the future on this series because I think it's applicable. I think a lot of people have proven some of the stories in the Bible appear to be clear descriptions of UFOs and aliens. The UFO's real story, January 1948. Air Force captain crashes a P-51 while chasing unusual aircraft, circular in appearance, 250 to 300 feet in diameter. 1952, 1957, 1966, 1973. Different examples here. So are these books all lies? Is that all fabrication? Does it have some sinister purpose of propagandizing, changing people's philosophy on reality from God and Jesus and other religions? This is another book we went over. Population Control or Race to Oblivion. The population bomb. So let's see. UFOs Past, Present. This book here was published in 1974. So what else was happening in 1974? (1968), prior to the UFOs Past, Present, and Future. The population bomb. 68. Mankind's inalienable rights. The right to eat well. The right to drink pure water. The right to breathe clear air. The right to decent, uncrowded shelter. Uncrowded shelter. The right to enjoy natural beauty. The right to avoid regimentation. The right to avoid pesticide poisoning. The right to freedom of thermonuclear war. The right to limit families. I notice when they do these propaganda pieces, they always throw a bunch of good stuff in there, then they add something else, so you would assume that it's good. The right to drink pure water is in the same list as the right to limit families. The right to educate our children. The right to have grandchildren. Professor Paul Ehrlich is a professor of biology, director of a graduate study for the Department of Biological Sciences at Stanford University. His specialty is population biology. He has written over 70 scientific papers and several books on this related subjects. The right to limit families. I might ask a question to Dr. Paul Eldridge. Does those rules apply to the elitist? Are they the same rules that apply to the rest of us? Are the same rules for white people or the same rules for black people? The same rules for Asians, the same rules for Africans? The right to limit families. Hitler was into eugenics. Just saying, so 68 and 73. Flying Saucers and the Three Men. Another book. I have a point to make here. Published 1968. So in 1968 you're getting a population bomb and Flying Saucers and the Three Men. After heading the International Flying Saucer Bureau for many years, a civilian UFO investigative organization, Albert Bender suddenly disbanded the group. Bender told close associates that he had found the solution to the flying saucer mystery, but he had been frightened into silence by three men in dark suits. Well, we can imagine that's probably government people who sponsored this book, Population Bomb, wanting to have the right to breathe clean air and drink pure water. The elitists want less people on the planet for their own selfish purposes, in my opinion. They've concealed lots of technological advances from the rest of us. As we just saw in that investigation into the Transylvania Sunrise, is that story true? Did they find those underground facilities? Men in dark who warned him not to divulge his fantastic discovery. Now Bender reveals the sinister events behind his UFO encounters. The identity of the three men in black, where the flying saucers come from, their strange purpose here on Earth. He was terrified into keeping their dangerous secrets. Remember, in the Transylvania Sunrise, it was the leaders of the Bilderbergers and Freemason societies who were controlling the whole situation and governments. Hence my series, Freemasonry and Satanism, the occult, witchcraft. And if you want a scientific, rational explanation for that, natural sciences, understanding quantum physics, radiotronics, frequencies. Like our DNA, everybody's DNA is different. Different frequencies for every kind of matter on Earth. Trees, leaves, bugs, bees, fish, and everything has a different frequency. There's something up there, Dale White. Published in 1968. Remember, we're supposed to have gone to the moon, what, 69, 70, 71? Behind the Flying Saucers, Frank Scully. Look at these little paperbacks that came out back then. Publishing date here, 51. Look at the cover. Are they real or are they a hoax? Are they hallucinations? Mass hysteria? Are they a secret weapon in our army? Are they enemy missiles from Russia? Are they spaceships from Venus? Is it true that little men 3 feet high were found inside them? These questions and many more that you never dreamed of are answered openly and forthrightly in this amazing book. Behind the Flying Saucer Mystery, George Amansky. Some of these books I keep in little bags. I guess they're valuable. Published. It's important to pay attention to that. 1961. If anybody knows who owns the media. Book publishing companies. Let's just say they're not predominantly Jewish Christian folks. They are predominantly Jewish folks. Apparently, the people who are in high places managing and running or controlling the government, the politicians, who are the backbone of the takeover of the Freemasonic lodges and all that. And for further illumination, I might add, it's the Illuminati, which are controlled by the Rothschilds and Rockefellers. Everybody knows that who's a researcher. And these people are Zionist Jewish folks, Talmudic Jewish folks. Not to be confused with Jewish folks in your neighborhood that babysit the kids or go bowling with you or something, who know nothing about this. But people into the Kabbalah, people into the occult, people into secret knowledges, people who have a plan, like Professor Higger said in his book, The Jewish Utopia. The world's only government-documented UFO crash, Dark Object, Whitley Strieber's Hidden Agendas. I haven't read this book yet, but I've read some of Whitley Strieber's material. And this was published in 2001. Just trying to make a point here, because when we get into this book, it's all going to be apropos. You say, wow, that makes sense. Frank Edwards, Flying Saucers, Serious Business. Overwhelming new evidence they are real. The book that smashes through the barrier of official silence with the exclusive story. Look at these paperbacks that came out. Looks like this one has some pictures. The date on this one, 1952. So all this stuff was really going on in force after World War II, which ended in 45-46. And the Americans were bringing over a lot of the German scientists who were into the occult and other things, even inventing flying saucers and other advanced technologies. And there were a project called Project Paperclip. Illegally bringing these Germans, the enemy supposedly, into the United States, again without informing the USA citizens, who seem to not have the right to know anything about anything, except for the fact they're expected to believe the lies and deceptions that we are fed every day. So they have a operations training manual, UFOs Serious Business. This order was issued at the Inspector General of the Air Force to every Air Force Base commander in the continental United States on December 24th, 1959. You can't read it, but you can see it. There's a couple pictures in this book here. Each year from 54 to 59, the Air Force released this artist's conception of their secret jet-propelled flying saucers being built in Canada. So what is the secret? That the United States invented this stuff? The most widely advertised secret turned out to be nothing more than a huge duck fan. A monumental fizzle. The boast had to become a bust. So people were doing hoaxes. Early type UFO with top post modified into low rounded knob, taken by the chief photographer for El Crucio magazine, Rio, August 1954. The UFO moved slowly along cliff and above parade on beach several hundred feet below. I just read this here. Another picture in the book. Intelligence manual shows flying discs. Here's an Air Force intelligence manual, picture over the page. We've gone over this before. And this book was published, I said, 1952. Flying Saucers Uncensored. Harold Wilkins. Is there a common battle plan aimed at Earth? Here is the astonishing evidence of the reality and the tragedy of UFOs in our skies. What was the year of this book? Been collecting these for a few years. 1955. Just looking to see if there's any pictures. Usually have pictures in the center of these books. Flying saucers on the attack. So here you are back then, 1955, 1962, 1971. These paperbacks were coming out. Pretty popular stuff. What year was this? By Harold Watkins. The other one was Harold Watkins there. 1954. Amazing hundreds of reports of UFOs. Are they friendly visitors from outer space or invaders planning conquest? So what's it have to do with Professor Higgers, the Jewish author of the Jewish Utopia, and Bloody Zion, and the Twin Towers coming down, enabling them to invade the Middle East and having all the people, all the Arabs, either murdered or fleeing for their lives? This says invaders planning conquest. See it right there in the bottom? So is this part of the New World Order? I say yes. Extraterrestrials Among Us. George Andrews. These are the little grays on the bottom here. And apparently Aleister Crowley, known as the evilest man alive, and who apparently did some gruesome things to children, sexual and drinking blood, eating flesh. Him and his other groups, in the satanic rituals, which one has to ask, what's the deal with that? And I'm beginning to get closer to the truth. And remember in Rabbi Marvin Antelman's two books I went over, To Eliminate the Opate, Volume 1 and Volume 2, in Hitler's diary, according to Rabbi Marvin Antelman, smarter guy than I, in one of the satanic rituals over there in Germany, Munich, and Hitler was present, they abducted a Munich gypsy person, a guy, sacrificed him on an altar with a young lady of the cult laying there for some kind of spiritual divine impregnation. So they sacrificed the young Munich gypsy to bring forth a being, spiritual being, an entity who materialized. In the diary, he did materialize, but he failed to impregnate the young lady. And lest we forget, when I went over the Gospel of St. Mark in the Bible, a lot of places Jesus was traveling, people who were possessed would not see him as Jesus. If you read the Bible, St. Mark, and you look at my video. But the deformed creature who everybody thought was crazy, was actually possessed, would look up and go to Jesus, "What are you doing here?" And then Jesus would say, "Out of him, demon, unclean spirits," whatever. So there's something more here. I mean, we're talking about the Bible says this, and then Rabbi Marvin Antelman's Hitler's Diary says they killed a girl to bring forth the entity. From 1840 to 1940, I have volumes of books we're going to go over more on psychic research from the European Psychic Research Society, and then following that, the American Research Society. And from the 1840s to the 1940s, prior to World War II, there were people in the seances and mediums and bringing forth beings to materialize, table wrappings, calling forth relatives, dead people, talking to them. Something more. I'm convinced that these unclean spirits that Jesus was casting out in the Bible, and these beings that appear to be UFO aliens, and these grays right here on the bottom of this book, all have something in common. Because in Aleister Crowley, the evilest man alive, he was communicato with some creature called a Hawassa. And his drawing, Aleister Crowley did a drawing. Whenever you look up any of Aleister Crowley's material on the internet or get the books, you could probably find a picture of Hawassa, and he looks like one of these grays. So they got all kinds of funny pictures in these books and stories. What year was this book? 1995. The Spaceships of Ezekiel. So here's somebody here who went through the Bible, read some of the descriptions that are described, and became a little astonished, and this is a NASA engineer, reveals the amazing facts that the descriptions in the Bible seem to describe intradimensional craft. And this one here was published 1974. The Spaceships of Ezekiel will shock the scientific community and astonish the world at large. It contains evidence of a technology far ahead of ours in the 6th century before Christ. Just want to make a reminder of Transylvania Sunrise. And the base, apparently, that was discovered, that the seating, the tables and chairs and equipment could only have been used by giants, which is described in the Bible, Nephilim or something like that. And apparently this base is thought to be 50,000 years old. And a little other sidebar here. I told a friend of mine about a video I was watching, and she said, "Did you know that they saw a UFO in Asheville, North Carolina yesterday?" And she said it was an orange thing with the nearby with some cylinder-looking craft. The people in downtown Asheville, North Carolina, near where I live. So what did I do? I went on the internet and looked up UFO reporting sites to see if this was there. 1126. 11/23/15, Asheville City, North Carolina, shape changing, duration was an hour, rotating shape covered with white lights with a cylinder in the center. On the National UFO Reporting Center, State Reporting Index for NC. What I thought was amazing here, I'll show you. But here's the Asheville thing that she told me. Top one on the list. But the amazing thing to me And I only did 3 pages. But look at the list there of North Carolina sightings. This is 11/26/2015. Today. Look at all these books. This has nothing to do with trying to say that you shouldn't believe in Jesus or God or spiritual beings. Because if you go through this stuff, that's exactly what you gets described. (11:21) solid green light moving slowly or nearly stationary. Gibbonsville, then suddenly flying off and disappearing. Hickory, that's about an hour east of where I am. V-shaped object with 6 white lights, 1 red light at the point. Snow camp. My girlfriend and I seen a constant bright light with red and green flashing light moving straight up and down and side to side and then disappear. Charlotte, North Carolina. 11:19. Bright white light form a pyramid in sky, which then changed into a straight line with lights whose trails connected them together. Cary, which is about a couple hours east of me. I have never seen anything like it before, so they don't have the whole explanation on this one sheet. Hickory again on 11:19. UFO on the ground next to the power pole, observing traffic on Route 40, Hickory, North Carolina. Charlotte again, 11:18. Orbs moving in sequence. New Force note, possible advertising lights, we wonder. Charlotte again, 4 orbs of light moving in around each other constantly. Boone, that's a hour north of me. Orbs of light behind clouds circling around each other. Orbs. That's one of the key things. Spiritual beings manifesting. Is there something weird going on? Remember, they do have CERN they're turning on. And they are installing the fake cell phone towers. Gwen, ground wave. And then they have the HARP transmitters installed all over the world. It's like they turned the whole planet into a gigantic holographic TV where you can look up and maybe they can make anything appear that they want. Just saying. What is true? Marshallberg, the object was very bright, moved fast, zigzagging and disappearing and then back into another spot. Clemens, round white, bright object with flashing red and green lights moving slightly up and down. Boiling Springs, it's the size of a hot air balloon that has a cylinder in the middle with 3 pods flashing green and orange light. So there's 3 sheets here. There's the sheet I just read. There were actually 136 pages sheets here. And this is, you can see it on the top, it says 2 of 136. I only wanted to print out 3 sheets instead of using up all my ink. So we're going back here to the bottom of the second sheet, 10/8, October 8th, Curry. V formation of large red lights the size of football field, flying treetop low and silently. So you too can go to this website. I'll give you the website here. On the bottom of this document, pause your computer, write it down. And the third sheet here, I'll just do the top one and the bottom one. Greensboro, western sky north of Greensboro, seems to hover, moving in any direction, almost as if wind were bobbing around. Seems to have red object appearing and disappearing, with 3 planes chasing it. So 3 military planes were chasing this thing. 9/18. Burlington, 8/14 this year, 2015. Circle orange in center, changed speed quickly. So 136 pages of sightings, current ones, in North Carolina at that website. And the reason I looked it up, like I said, is my friend said, "Did you know this?" I thought I would talk about something else. I try, as a researcher, I am constantly, when I do go out, I'm a little bit of a social person. I like to go to the local jazz pub or old-time bluegrass music place or restaurants and downtown Asheville at the park and friends' houses, and I try to talk to people about some of this stuff. And it's almost as if I triggered some kind of mind control mechanism or something in psychological in their human perception or whatever. They turn off. They have like a blank look at you. Like they're almost not hearing you when you're 2 feet away, sitting in the next chair. People don't want to talk about any of this stuff. The war over there in Syria, the bombings in France, which apparently the majority of pundits on the New Wave alternate websites and other people are making obvious observations that it was a false flag. There were numerous reasons why. And you can go watch these videos on YouTube and decide for yourself. Couple of reasons. One is a week or so before this happened, apparently the Israel's security chief, United States, France, all these people had a meeting about this problem. The movie theater, the owner, 40 years owning the business, a Jewish guy, recently sold it. And a lot of other things. And the next day, France was joining the group bombing Syria, which had opposed those activities. So there's a lot of backdoor stuff going on. Politicking at a kind of a sinister level. But getting back to getting people to open their minds and to seeing the reality of what's going on. So I looked up on the computer, psychological resistance. Psychological resistance is the phenomenon often encountered in clinical practice in which patients either directly or indirectly oppose changing their behavior or refuse to discuss, remember, or think about presumably clinically relevant experiences. And there's also another word called normally bias. If it's just so far out there, not in the realm of their myopic world, in other words, if they're only caring about their job and girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, children, football on Saturday or Sunday, drinking wine or beer, doing drugs. Their social little circle. And I'm not doing the 666. I see myself in the video and I do this and I'm like, I don't want that to be misinterpreted. But their little circle of reality is what they do. And when you try to break that barrier, they go into a shut-down state. And according to statistics, and I challenged a guy the other day to ask me a question that I couldn't answer the question. I said, ask me anything about what's going on in the world. History, whatever. I've been reading so many books, I probably can answer you. And he said, okay, how many people have been, percentage-wise, tattooed in the United States? Then immediately I said, well, 85%. And he was blown away. He goes, how did you know that? I said, because it's common statistics right now that about 85% of the population are zombies. They're making a TV show about it. They've been watching TV since they were a child. They've been watching the boob tube. The programming, the mesmerization has taken effect on them. That's the statistical results. 85%. No wonder they're making a beeline down to get a tattoo. And they believe in the New Age and Mother Goddess. And get mad and tell people it's been proven there's no Jesus. It's all mind control going on. So psychological resistance. So I thought I would look it up. It's a pretty interesting document. The discovery of resistance was central to Sigmund Freud's theory of psychoanalysis. For Freud, the theory of repression is the cornerstone of which the whole structure of psychoanalysis rests. So my point is, and I can prove this in my materials here, the governments since World War II, and probably before, because they started using the fluoride in the water, toothpaste, and other kind of chemical additives on people in the early 1910, 1920, 1900s. So they knew about this calcifying the pineal gland here to diminish people's intuitive psychic powers. While these people who control our world are killing children and other satanic rituals, sacrifices, drinking the blood, because when you freak somebody out while you're killing them, it creates, the body produces some kind of hormone that gets in the blood. So when they do drink it, apparently the person drinking it that's into Satanism and those rituals, Illuminati, they get some kind of euphoric reaction. And even an ability, a heightened pineal gland ability, psychic ability, and can even probably see into the other dimensions if they don't travel into the other dimensions, or even have some ability to open up portals and bring spiritual entities into this dimension. Bizarre stuff. I know. And then, of course, we remember Edgar Cayce's story on reincarnations, many mansions. Edgar Cayce's incredible healing power is recorded fact. Thousands of microfilms filed at the Foundation of Psychic Research at Virginia Beach testify at Cayce's ability to diagnose, prescribe, and cure the ills of people whose names and locations he was given, but whom he had never seen. So he could do this for people who just sent in a letter. Known as the Miracle Man of Virginia Beach, his successes astonished medical authorities and the world. Many mansions. Is Dr. Sermarina's account of these healings and affirmation of the age-old belief in reincarnation. She tells how Cayce saw past the barriers of space and time and how he penetrated the previous lives of his subjects and performed the fantastic cures and prophecies that made him the most remarkable clairvoyant in modern history. And lest we forget, in the Bible, when Satan tempts Jesus, takes him to the top of the mountain and says, "Bow down to me on your knee, and I will give you all of this." It's talking about earth. And Jesus said, "No. In my Father's house there are many mansions in the heavens." So who's in control of the earth? I guess we can say the satanic beast is. And the satanic beast, if we remember the Bible in Genesis, it was a snake in the Garden of Eden. Or maybe it wasn't a snake, but after he did it, God transformed him into a snake to crawl on his belly. If you go to your downtown historical cities, you'll see gargoyles and dragon-like snake beings on top of the old buildings. You look in any mythology book or ancient book on England and stuff like that with the Crusades, they're slaying the dragon. China, they have the long dragons, the parades and the symbols. There's something going on, and they're talking about reptilians, shapeshifters. I just got done watching a video, which I recommend to anybody to watch, with David Icke and what was her name? Wilder. Think of her name. Funny how the brain is, sometimes you can't remember things. Arizona Wilder, David Icke. Go look up that interview on YouTube. Fascinating. She was an insider goddess in the Illuminati. Was present at a lot of the Illuminati satanic rituals. And saw a lot of the characters that, I don't want to mention the names. Go watch the video. I'll mention one name. But the Queen of England would be a leadership type person at these satanic rituals and would revert back to her original form, which was a reptilian creature with a snout and everything, like those gargoyle monsters. And she mentions a lot of other names of a lot of people that we all know at these satanic rituals. And what they do is they do sacrifice people, especially children. And it's a process. And some of these beasts, when they smell the blood, lose control of themselves and viciously attack the human being sacrificed, rip open their throat, and start drinking their blood, and then later on eating the flesh. I know, it's all crazy. That's why I thought I would bring in all this stuff first here. Remember, Truman and the government in the United States had a big problem, so-called, as has been reported, with the aliens, those 2 crashes in Roswell. Apparently, there were human body parts on board. And according to what the aliens acknowledged was that they were trying to clone some half alien, half human beings. So what is the reality we live in? I've gone over everything from why did the government is obsessed with population have this book published? All these people get grants and stuff like that. And the other books I've gone over, Report from Iron Mountain, so many books I've gone over. Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins. So many books I've gone over. All those books on the Zionist and Talmudic Jewish people that said the best of the goyim shall be killed. So that was my introduction to this video. So that when I start talking about stuff in this book, it might not be so bizarre. The Black Sun. Discover the Nazis' deepest secrets. The Black Sun continues the intriguing revelations readers have come to expect from Peter Moon. So I'm doing a series of stuff with Peter Moon books, if you haven't noticed, the 3 books, and probably some others if I can find them in my collection. As he digs deeper than ever before into the mysterious synchronicities that have made his work so popular. The Black Sun is an adventure in consciousness that reveals a vast array of new information from the German flying saucer program to the SS mission in Tibet. And we are led on a path that gives us the most insightful look ever into the Third Reich and the holy relics they sought in their ultimate quest, the Ark of the Covenant and the Holy Grail. Going beyond the Spear of Destiny and other attempts to unlock the mysterious occultism of the Nazis, Peter Moon peers into the lab of the ancient alchemists and their white powdered gold in order to explain the secret meaning behind the Egyptian and Tibetan books of the dead. I remember we did the Transylvania sunrise, and apparently in the Bosiji Mountains I just went over, there were numerous tunnels in there leading off in other directions. One going off to the pyramids, the Sphinx in Egypt, another one going over to the Tibetan mountains area, another one going over to the plains west of Romania and Turkey. What kind of those people? The nomads? No. Words evade my mind sometimes. There were Mongols, the Mongols in the north, Genghis Khan area. Apparently, the ancient relatives of the Akhenazi Jewish people along that plain, Asiatics. An interesting area. That whole area from Mongolia, Russia, Ukraine, down to Turkey, Greece, all the way down to Jerusalem, the Middle East. And then somehow these royal families made their way into Germany and England and other places. The Nordics became the kings and queens with their secret powers, I guess they could, controlling people. And even here in the United States, as we're going to find out, with Montauk being at the end of Long Island, New York, has an interesting history of the natives who used to live there, and there were pyramids there. So let's get going with this book. Had to give all that introduction there to try to get us on the right wavelength here, to make some of this other stuff make some sense. It's so bizarre. There's so many books and so many subjects, but of course they're all tied together. All right, the prelude, and I only highlighted a couple sentences. So I like to read my sentences and add a little commentary if necessary. The Montauk Project, Experiments in Time, was released in June 1992. So if you really want to get into this stuff, go buy the book, The Montauk Project. This is one of his later books. Experiments in Time. They were opening up portals. I'll give you my synopsis here. Apparently, if you create a vortex of electricity, magnetic fields, it opens up a portal into time and space. And they were abducting young boys and pushing them into these portals, not knowing where they were going, nor could they retrieve them, as they were doing their experiments to try to be more proficient at using these time portals, if you can believe it. They called it the Montauk Project. The origins of this bizarre operation date back to 1943. When was 1943? It had been smack dab in the middle of World War II. And the United States was trying to design some kind of shield around a ship, because as most people know, the Germans were very proficient with their submarines at sinking ships. So they put these microwave transmitters all around the ship, turned them on, and the ship disappeared and reappeared a while later elsewhere, with some of the humans half in the bulkhead, half out of the bulkhead. And their legs would be sticking out in one of the aisles inside the ship. Their stomach would be in the bulkhead, and their body would be outside on the deck. So apparently when the ship went into this portal dimensional time thing, it dematerializes things. And everything shifts around, and when it rematerialized, if you weren't where you were supposed to be, you would rematerialize half inside the ship and half outside the ship. Imagine there being on the deck, and your body, when you come back and you're halfway down to your waist into the floor steel. Of course you wouldn't live. Might live for a few seconds and have a horrible moment or two. But basically that's the bottom line of it. When you put these electromagnetic portals, and remember, we're all molecules and atoms anyways. None of us are solid. We're all moving particles. Some people like to think of the whole thing as like the Matrix. But we're getting to all this. So the USS Eldridge, the bizarre operation date back when invisibility experiments were conducted. So when they were trying to do these invisibility experiments, they were using some logical science. They just thought they could create an electromagnetic field, and then somebody looking that way wouldn't see through it. Or even the radar system from another ship wouldn't penetrate. It wouldn't show up as a blip on the radar screen. Now remember, a lot of these UFOs pop into existence and pop back out. If you go on the internet and watch some of the newer videos, people seeing them these days, and lately I've been noticing on some of these videos, people are actually seeing in the clouds, in the sky, this little dark portal opening before the ship comes through. Or when it leaves, it goes into a dark portal in the sky. So if you're paying attention, you're watching these guys' videos, you'll see that little dark portal opening. Time-space portal. Is it real? Are all these books lies? That Busiji Mountains, that base that's been there for 50,000 years with holographic images and a force field shield, they had to figure out how to get through. They had to bring in psychics to try to figure out how to get through that force field shield. In that book we went over, Transylvania Sunrise. Remember, we're talking about my series, Freemasonry and Satanism. These Freemasons controlled the population, the banks, the systems, and the politicians and leadership of the world. They control all the secrets, all the discoveries. They have those satellites in space. They know where the gold reserves are, oil with the technologies of X-ray in the ground. They want to microchip everybody. Their sustainability propaganda, Agenda 21 propaganda, global warming propaganda, terrorism propaganda. There's more people died from slipping in the tub or hit by lightning or food poisoning or numerous other things than terrorism. It's minuscule terrorism deaths. But they get and then they fabricate these school shootings with these mind control zombies that's in these Montauk books we're going to go over. They estimate they have over a million mind controlled, programmed people, zombies out there that can be triggered into doing things at any given time. Over 1 million people are programmed out there. It's becoming a big topic. And they're trying to keep it from the public, of course. But they're obviously advancing forward with their agenda. If you just go watch the nightly news or the sports, football games, and you see that mesmerizing turning of this big thing zooming up and zooming back, and all the other symbolism on the TV shows like Chuck Norris in the Texas Rangers, and they show that star up close. It's like a witch's symbol, and then they pull it back. And in some of it, I've seen an actual image of a ghost in it, a demon. And now I've been seeing an IS in it, like ISIS. They show the star, and they have an I and an S. I'm thinking, what's going on? And if you look at the themes of the show, the horrific murdering and horrible activities and occultic stuff in those shows, they're programming people. Moving on here. So that was called the Philadelphia experiment, where they were trying to make the ship invisible in 1943 when they turned on the microwave transmitters installed all around the ship. Boom, it disappeared, reappeared, people half in, half out of the bulkhead. On YouTube, there is the movie, The Philadelphia Experiment. And that's a whole another interesting story, how that movie got made and how the government tried to shut it up. And even had a court order to not have it on TV or programmed in the movies. Why? The ship became invisible to the naked eye and was removed from time and space as we know it. That's just in the prelude here. Those who survived were discharged as mentally unfit and otherwise discredited, and the entire affair was covered up. So nobody was allowed to talk about that. So moving on this prelude, not even getting into the book yet. I'm going to try to do some jumping in this book, but I want to make sure you get the gist of what's in it on the Black Sun. So apparently on Long Island there's something called the Brookhaven National Laboratories. I've got family who lives in Smithtown and Seaford, and I've been driven past Brookhaven National Laboratories on Long Island. And apparently it was the first major atomic research facility in the war. And they got all the names here. They used radio equipment trying to create these different technologies. Over the years, the Montauk researchers perfected their mind control techniques and can continue to dwell further into the far reaches of human potential. Only reading 2 sentences, but I did highlight 2 whole pages here. It talks at length about the diabolical monstrous, insane things they did to young abducted boys to perfect their mind control techniques. Just completely just crazy. And there's several names in this book. You can go on YouTube, and I've been doing that for the last week. Been having like a Peter Moon, Al Beback, Duncan Cameron, Preston Nichols, and all these people mentioned in the Montauk Peter Moon series. Watching their videos, listening to what they have to say. It's a fantastic investigation. It just blows your mind. Aleister Crowley, the wickedest man alive, is involved with these people, who was also involved in the Montauk Project. Jack Parsons, the guy who was involved with the Jet Propulsion Laboratory creation, NASA and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and a lot of these major corporations were involved in all this occultive activities. And Crowley, Aleister Crowley, was knew all these people. Preston Nichols, Duncan Cameron, went to Montauk, was involved. I guess the government wanted to hire him, using some of his occultic techniques for getting into the spiritual realm, doing things to these abducted young boys. Like I said, if you go watch any video today, go watch that David Icke and Arizona Wilder, Revelations of a Mother Goddess. I'm looking at my computer here. David Icke, Revelations of a Mother Goddess, Arizona Wilder, Wilder. She tells all. They have all these satanic rituals, and they de-transform, shape-shifting, from the human form into the reptilian form, and viciously attack the sacrificed victims like a rabid dog. Apparently they do this quite a bit. Made a little cheat sheet here of my notes. I'll just look at my notes here for a second. So according to Arizona Wilder, there are 3 mother goddesses on planet Earth in the whole Illuminati worldwide organizations, and 3 males. Involves the Druids, the Egyptians, the Talmud, and they have holidays like we have Christmas and Easter. They have all these satanic holidays where they have these sacrifices. And then again, he mentions in this video, or some other video I was watching, we all know about Edward Snowden releasing all the evidence of the government compiling gigantic computer data on everybody and everybody on the planet. For what sinister purpose, we don't know. But apparently, prior to him, there was something called the Pentagon Papers. So you might want to go look that up. Anyways, a lot of these satanic rituals involve, I guess, some kind of sexual orgies, like David... Gotta forget my names here. But InfoWars, Alex Jones, when he videotaped the Bohemian Grove, and old men, dress up in long robes naked underneath and ship in gay men for sex, just makes one wonder if these people are all shapeshifters. This gay sex they have with these men, do they then viciously attack them and kill them? Were they actually bringing in sacrificial victims? Because that's what's described in the David Icke video with Arizona Wilder. That's what they did. They couldn't wear clothes because when they do shapeshift from a human to a reptilian, they would burst all the clothes or break them because the reptilian bodies were different. Just some notes there I took here watching these videos, investigating these kinds of activities. Apparently worldwide there's 6 councils of 13. The Octagon Illuminati royal families are involved. They are some kind of DNA, different kind of creatures, reptilians, and we know about the Greys that are seen on those UFO books and Aleister Crowley and plenty of other books. And Hitler was into the Vril, and apparently it's serpent power. The Druidic holidays are the same as the Satanic holidays, and apparently they like to drink the menstrual blood from women in these sacrifices, and it's called starfire. Just saying, you start studying this stuff. It's out there. And again, you had to discuss all that to get on with this book. Look at the front cover. So Peter Moon's material and all these people involved, Long Island, United States, involvement of the Nazis over there. So moving on here. A guy named John Ford, founder and president of the Long Island UFO Network. John Ford had a long-standing reputation as a law-abiding individual who uses the court system to right injustices. He is also a meticulous researcher who covers all the bases. In June, John was arrested for allegedly conspiring to kill 3 Suffolk County executives by sneaking radium into their toothpaste. So apparently they had to shut him up. June 1996 to at least April 1997, John Ford had languished in jail without a trial. I think Fritz Springmeier, who wrote The Bloodlines of the Illuminati, they had seemingly set him up for robbing a bank. And now he's back, and he does speaking engagements and videos. You can see them on YouTube. Fritz Springmeier. We've gone over that book, Bloodlines of the Illuminati. All this stuff connects. So that was just the prelude to give us a little gist of what's in here. In ancient times, it was identified as the Black Sun. So what are we talking about here? While it is a power which can give rise to the Nazi and choose a leader like Hitler, it is also a power which can carve out a paradise like Yosemite Valley or the Hawaiian Islands and make a room full of people stand up and say, America is beautiful. So it is the powers behind the operation of Montauk. We're not operating within the legal laws. So something called the Black Sun, it's the name of this book. And there'll be more descriptions of what that means in my video. In ancient times it was identified as the Black Sun. My personal understanding of it began with a thorough investigation of the Nazis and their mysterious presence at Montauk Point. So now we're going to the introduction here. Nazi involvement at Montauk. That's at the end of Long Island. And across Long Island, first was a news article about the state of New York engaging in the excavation of Camp Hero in order to recover a cache of gold the Nazis had buried there. Apparently at the end of Montauk, Long Island and New York area is a big rock, as we all know. But apparently there's a lot of caverns underneath. And some of these elitist people, part of the Masonics and other occultist leaders of the world ruling our world, they know about these caverns and other activities going on down below. Alright, let's try to get to the focus of this book. So we're talking about Montauk. Talking about caverns underneath. A place called Cape Hero. Aleister Crowley's involved. Preston Nichols. Cameron Duncan. Peter Moon, the author. Al Bebeck. mind-controlled young boys, satanic rituals, reptilians, UFOs, aliens, in a series called Freemasonry and Satanism. Of course, it's all tied together. The elites who control our world know all this stuff that I'm sharing in this video, which most people don't know because 85% of the people have been programmed, tuned out. They wouldn't accept the data. They'll tell you to shut up. They'll tell you you're nuts. They'll tell you you're crazy. And now, if you go check the comments on press releases on the internet, Yahoo or whatever news, I see time after time again people going, you know, I don't think these things are conspiracies. These things are real. And the government's been trying to make everybody think it's all conspiracies. The shooting in France recently, the bombings and all that, it was a staged event. A planned event by the people we're talking about. And they are planning a new world order. They are planning a new age. They are trying to destroy Christianity and everybody's belief system and spiritualism. They are putting drugs and fluoride and stuff, sky spraying stuff in the air. HARP system, microwave transmitters, fake cell phone towers, GWEN systems, GWEN, ground wave. Look it up. Don't believe a darn thing I'm saying. Take some notes. Get a notepad like I have and take some notes. Become a little bit of a researcher and share it with your family and friends. You may be saving yourself and them. Montauk locals picnicking at Montauk Point so they could watch fleets of Nazi U-boats lazily raise their periscopes right off the coast. So this is some historic information about Montauk off the coast of New York City. History books revealed that Long Island was also the home of a major Aryan movement, as well as the headquarters of the largest Nazi camp in America. Long Island's Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, the world's most prestigious eugenics, here we go again, laboratory during the 1930s, was suspiciously renowned for its tactic operations with the Nazis. Most bizarre were all the strange tales of Nazi scientists regrouping after the war, conducting bizarre experiments in the underground facilities beneath Montauk. And remember, the U.S. government in secret conspired to bring a lot of scientists after World War II to the USA, created all kinds of secret laboratories in even small little cities and towns for these people, and have continued forward with their occult and crazy scientific experiments and research far beyond what the citizens of the world know today. And of course, they're giving us these cell phones. And here I got a Geiger counter that I keep on. You can see it's got 18 counts per minute. Sometimes it goes up. And all these technologies and toys. And so I think there's something sinister behind these kinds of cell phones, that they can probably interact with us and they can monitor us and track us. Or they wouldn't be giving each person individually such a high-tech piece of equipment. My personal interest in Montauk Nazi connection began the very first time I heard Preston Nichols and Duncan Cameron speak. So these were two guys that apparently were working at this base, military base, at the end of Montauk, with the government on opening up these time portals, putting children through there, and using electronic equipment to mind control and program children and people, and do some diabolical experiments on them for information on people, how they react and all that. Which reminds me of the Johnson's Basis series on the internet. Look up the Basis series. Miles Johnston. You got to watch some of that stuff, because apparently in Canada and other places out there in New Mexico, all over the world, they have these secret underground and other secret facilities where they're abducting young children and people and performing horrible experiments and activities on them. Beyond belief. And Arizona Wilder, in that David Icke video, Revelations of a Mother Goddess, was raised from a child to be one of these mother goddesses for the satanic Illuminati groups. And they would take these people, impregnate them with some of the reptilian DNA so that they could have a live baby to sacrifice at 3 months old. They needed these particular DNA types of people. A lot going on in this world that a lot of people are not aware of. And it might behoove all of us to... we've seen the books they just did there on the UFOs and Edgar Cayce and the population bomb. And we went over the Transylvania Sunrise. And now we're doing this. We went over all those books on the Zionists. There's no mistaking it. The Talmud, their Bible, says the best of the Goyim will be killed. They want to enslave everybody on the planet. We know that they orchestrated World War I and World War II. They tricked people. They weren't natural occurrences. Wilson had a meeting and said they were going to do it. Roosevelt had a meeting and said they were going to do it. They cut off all the supplies and everything to Japan in their war with China. They wanted to get into war with Germany during World War II. But Germany said, nothing doing. But they had a treaty with Japan that if anybody who went to war with Japan went to war with Germany at the same time. False flag, Pearl Harbor. And the same thing with World War I we went over in my previous videos. They said that a ferry carrying some Americans off of the coast of Britain was sank and killed by the Germans. And days later, Wilson declared war, and the whole United States started building guns and bombs and weapons and training troops and sending them over there. And weeks later, they found out that the ferry never sank. They got control. Apparently, it's these diabolical, satanic, gargoyle-looking reptilian creatures that can shapeshift and look like a human being. And it goes all the way back into the Bible. And that base they discovered in Romania, where the chairs and the table were for the size of giants. Lest we forget the stories of Atlantis, or the Sphinx and the pyramids, or even that American Idol program version of it in Europe, where Conchita Wurst won it, Eurovision. Conchita Wurst won the American Idol version called Eurovision. Her face was dressed up like Jesus, her body a woman in a silk dress, singing the song Phoenix Rising with the words, "You can't stop us." Conchita means a female part. Wurst is a sausage, I guess you could say a male part. We can't tell if it's a male or a female, the person. But singing the song Phoenix Rising, which is another satanic symbol, is you have to burn everything down before you can raise up the new world. Just like in the past, they had the Great Flood. Killed all the people of the planets, but like everything from the Hopi Indians to the people in Ecuador, Peru, all over the world. Apparently there were these intelligent, very capable, technologically advanced beings that helped, even like I said, the Hopis and the people in Ecuador build underground facilities to go before the flood even came. Hence the story in the Bible of Noah's Ark. So people got to get a grip and find out we have some nefarious forces that have plans for a new world order, microchipping everybody, killing off 85% of the population, taking away anybody's freedoms and rights, and having a different kind of planet of slavery. And some very horrible, perverted, diabolical stuff done to everybody. Sexually, torture. Apparently they get their jollies off of this stuff. Apparently it's some kind of spiritual, vibrational food for these creatures, according to research I've gone over. So Montauk continuing experiments during the Third Reich. Of particular interest to these scientists was the genetic characteristics of the blue-eyed and blonde-haired Aryan boys, which had been idealized in Hitler's Germany. So these experiments, they prefer to use blonde, blue-eyed Aryan boys. And a lot of involved horrible sex on these boys also. Al Biebeck, one of the people involved here, who also happened to be in the audience that night, claimed that the Nazi scientists were in abundance at the Montauk facility at the end of Long Island in New York City area. I don't think I started the book here. Still in the introduction. So it talks about the links to the Third Reich, to the mysterious origins of the Tibetan and Egyptian culture. I went and checked out some of the things about Tibet, and I found a very interesting website about, I shouldn't say a website, but on YouTube, an interesting, see if I can find it. I'm looking at my computer. The Best Film Archives. And the video I watched was Inside Tibet, Journey of a U.S. Diplomat Mission from India to Lhasa. So the YouTube, if you look up the Best Film Archives in Tibet, and a lot about Germany and the war, got some old videos that are just awesome. So apparently inside the point here, inside the Tibetan Himalayan mountains, is a whole community of people involved in all these ancient knowledge, secrets, world control power. And there's probably several places around the world, including Antarctica. And if you've been doing research, you're going to find all this stuff is connected. Connected to the Egyptian pyramids, connected to the plains up there in Mongolia. They call it the steppes. Underground facilities. Genghis Khan, who swept over most of Europe and Middle East and was slaughtering everybody. Alexander the great invader. Don't forget Napoleon. Let's not forget Hitler. Rome, all that stuff. The Pope. The 8 Crusades in 300 years. Going over to the Middle East, slaughtering everybody. Slitting open the stomachs to make sure nobody swallowed any gold. What's it got to do with all these reptilians and these people in Montauk? And the New World Order and destroying Christianity and the New Age? And I suspect it has everything to do with it. So I'm still doing the introduction here, trying to give you a little gist of this book. What is not so obvious is that people, places, and things can also manifest associations which are synchronous beyond the laws of probability. I'm convinced from my own personal life experience that synchronicity, things happening unexplainable. For example, even me doing these videos and reading all these books, getting into this whole subject, going on 11 years of my life, and I tried to walk away numerous times, but certain books would just show up, or topics or subjects, and I would just scratch my head and go, okay, I give up. I've got to look into this. Because if I don't look into it, you don't look into it, somebody doesn't look into it, like we just said there with Alex Jones going into the Bohemian Grove, videoing, and you can look this up on the YouTube, some of our most famous people all over the America and the earth, dressed up in long robes, screeching and howling like at a witchcraft party, throwing a baby into a fire under a gigantic owl called Moloch. The street floor plan for Washington, D.C. is a gigantic owl. It's even on the post where it shows you the directions to the subway. It shows you the street plan is in the shape of an owl. On the dollar bill on top of the one on the right-hand side, right on that little loop, is perched a little owl. Something going on. People are being abducted, children mostly, many times during the year. what, 50, 60,000, 100,000 or more for probably satanic rituals. Food for these creatures. They caused World War I. They caused World War II. The Vietnam War. You go look this stuff up. They faked events to get everybody involved in the war. All the wars. 9/11 was an inside job. There's videos now, I've watched a couple of them, that it's not even a question. There's no question that they were all brought down by demolitions. You can see whole chunks, the size of like a bus or something, square, flying away from the buildings as the thing is pancaping like they were cut out. And if they weren't cut out with high explosives, whatever they call that stuff that burns through that, it would have crumpled. Like if you took a piece of aluminum foil and pushed it together, the whole thing would have crumpled. It wouldn't have been cut like somebody cut scissors with paper. Cut the paper with scissors. But if you watch it and you just look at the video of the thing, you'll see these big chunks just flying out, one after another going down. And the people, one after another, says, listen to those explosions. Bang, 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 bang. They did 9/11 to do this, and they got these secret underground facilities. They got satellites in space that can x-ray the ground. They're digging like rats, looking for archaeological information. They're trying to bring about a new age and a new world order. And it's all some kind of mysterious science. A little bizarre, you think? By following the association between the Nazis and Montauk, as well as the namesakes thereof, tremendous secrets have been discovered, which if pursued to the ultimate end, will enable us to understand the entire workings of the universe itself. Wow. Fellow investigator Marshall Burns, who has studied quantum physics and has added considerable perspective to the mysterious but commonly experienced phenomenon of synchronicity. According to the laws of probability, synchronicity, or coincidences, is going to occur in any first-class universe. It isn't a coincidence that the bombings and shootings recently in France happened on Friday the 13th. It was Friday the 13th, hundreds of years earlier, that the King of France and the Pope together prosecuted and persecuted, burned at the stake, the Knights Templars on Friday the 13th. Revenge? But when the coincidences and synchronicities are far beyond the normal expectations, as determined by the mathematical laws of probability, there is an outside influence working. The synchronicity events become what is known as meaningful coincidences. This, in a nutshell, is what occurred in the story of Montauk. Outside or extraterrestrial forces worked on Aleister Crowley. In the Book of the Law, we've gone over that. And Aleister Crowley, Book of the Law is, do as thou wilt. Law number 2, refer to number 1. Do as thou wilt. Apparently, he says you can kill people, rape people, pillage, and everything else. Because if that's what you want to do, you should be able to do it. And you would say, that's insane, Rick. Look how many people now want to laugh at anybody who believes in Jesus and says we should abide with the 10 Commandments. Which is what I think we should all try to do. Number 6 commandment, don't kill people. Number 7, don't do adultery. Don't cheat on with your neighbor's wife while he's at work or something like that. Number 7, don't steal. Number 8, don't bear false witness and lie about people. And keep back your testimony if you know somebody's innocent. Which, by the way, in the Talmud, in the Zionist Jewish religion, it says if you know something that can help a Gentile, a non-Jew, that you're not to help them. It's actually against, you can be punished for helping them. You're be an outcast for helping somebody. But if it's a Jew, you can help them. And number 10 commandment is don't covet. Don't envy or want what somebody else has. Like they're killing all the people in the Middle East and bombing stuff. And Israel right now is getting contracts on those oil plants and oil fields. They're coveting it. They want it. How many people have died in Africa for the properties? In America, killing all American Indians. South America, the natives. Millions and millions were killed because they were unwanted. And somebody wanted their land and the resources. And now they have those satellites in space that can x-ray the ground. God forbid you should own 100 acres in Omaha and they notice there's an oil field under your ground. They're not going to come and voluntarily tell you. You're just going to be disappeared. All right, outside or extraterrestrial forces worked on Aleister Crowley. Like I said, that creature Hawassi, which looked like a gray alien according to Aleister Crowley's drawings, led him to write the Book of the Law. So these aliens are suggesting this Book of the Law, the anti-Christian material, anti-Ten Commandment issue, topics. Crowley never claimed it to be his own work and was puzzled by it for much of his own life. Jack Parsons, Marjorie Cameron, and Ron Hubbard, interesting book here, engaged these same forces and ended up influencing my own life in a very profound manner. So you got Aleister Crowley and Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and Peter Moon and all these people, Preston Nichols, Al Beback, Duncan Cameron, all of this involved with even Ron Hubbard. Scientology. Communicating with the occultic spiritual forces. The book you are about to read draws on all the synchronicities previously established. Take them to new heights and reveal deeper understandings. Ultimately, it leads to a profound undercurrent of life's mysteries, which is trying to explain itself, a phenomenon described at the end of this book as the Black Sun. Almost through with the introduction. All right. This tact is designed not only to clear up misconceptions that many of us suffer from, but to raise the social consciousness of who the Nazis actually were and what they are today. Even more important than this is the trail of history, which has been discovered by tracing Nazi connections through the magic of Montauk to Tibet and Egypt. The ancient legacy of mankind virtually ignored or hidden by the hallowed halls of archaeology is revealed in a brand new context which will change the way you look at everything. So I thought I would make this video shorter than I make some of my videos by ending it, and I haven't even started chapter 1, but we're going to probably go through this material on numerous videos. This book, and then we're going to do this book with Peter Moon and Preston Nichols. So we're going to try, and we already did Transylvania Sunrise, we are going to try to expose, when we say the word occult, Kabbalah, witchcraft, and that these elitists with all the money, they are take control of our Federal Reserve, and they have the all-seeing eye of Horus on it, and the pyramid, and some more sinister symbols on the U.S. dollar bill, including the obelisk in most of our downtown city squares and parks, and of course down Washington, D.C., being in the District of Columbia, which is a separate entity from the 50 states, and having connections to the District of Rome, where the Vatican is, not Rome, which is a separate entity from Italy, which is also connected to the money district of London, which is a separate entity, not part of Britain. And these three entities are actually one entity from my research. And they know a lot of this stuff. They control the politicians, they control the scientists, they control the money. And there's apparently a lot of stuff going on that's pretty bizarre. Occultic, Kabbalah, Rosicrucian, Freemasons, Zionism, Jesuits, witchcraft, Hollywood, many other names. So some of the contents in this book is Montauk, a Nazi rendezvous, the Cameron connection, the Kennedy connection, Teutonic heritage, the House of Orange, Lionel Gardner and the Witch, Project Paperclip, where they were bringing the German scientists over, the German connection, the Secrets of Judah, Die Fox, Die Führer, Hitler alive, Reich leaders escaped. Remember, this is book review series, Freemasonry and Satanism. And I know people don't have a lot of time to go buy the books and read them, so I make these videos to motivate people to look up the material, maybe go buy the book. I don't make any money off this from these authors or anything. All right, the Arab connection, there you go. The mysterious origins of Thorn, EMI. Thule, we know what Thule is. The power of the Vril. The Vril saucers, this is all Hitler stuff, the Thule. The Brookhaven connection, that's that laboratory on Long Island. The aftermath of the war. Neuschwa land, that's that land that they've created these secret bases in Antarctica. That you can't go down there, try it. You'll never make it. Why? Why would Antarctica be off limits to humans? North Pole off limits to humans. The OSS in Tibet, the SS in Tibet. So apparently the secret services or agents of Germany were in Tibet in cahoots getting technologies from those people in those vast underground caverns and cities, also called Shambhala. We've gone over that in Nexus magazines. We'll look at that some more. The Bon religion, the Mon, the Sensi pyramids, the Ark, white gold, occultism, the blue race. It was a funny thing with synchronicity. I'm reading this book about the blue race, and I was thinking in my mind of that movie, The Avatar. It was this past weekend. And I went to flip on the TV, and there was the movie The Avatar on. The synchronicities are happening all the time to me. The Curse of the Mummy. Crowley, Aleister Crowley. So I made it to the first chapter here. I'll continue in the next video. But I think I'll just do one more thing on this video. Just take a peek at a few more books in my collection. Scientific Study of Unidentified Flying Objects. The Dr. Edward Condon Report. Apparently, this Dr. Edward Condon worked for the government. And I've looked at some of the stuff. And basically, he tries to discredit everything. They're illusions, or they're clouds, or something. Big thick book. 3 fingers here. So I started looking at some of it, and he goes through great lengths to say, hey, no, that was just an optical illusion. Saturn, Venus in the sky, low on the horizon. Let's look at the date, though. 1969. Weren't we going to the moon? And I did read this book a long time ago. Communion, A True Story, Whitley Strieber. Look at the gray alien. Apparently these gray alien creatures could manifest themselves and also walk through walls or whatever. Flying saucers, the startling evidence of the invasion from outer space. This was a famous writer here, Corel Lorenzi. When did he publish this? 1965. Here at last are authentic reports on saucer sightings by reliable eyewitnesses across the world. Undeniable evidence that the Earth is being systematically explored and studied by beings of alien spacecraft. Fact. UFOs have visited every major military installation in the United States. Fact. UFOs tracked by Gemini flights and ran a parallel course to Sputnik 1. Fact. A huge fireball of unknown origin was sighted in the vicinity of Niagara Falls. Power lines. The moment the lights failed in New York City during the big blackout of 1965. This reports on flying saucers by the co-founder of the Aerial Phenomenon Research Organization, International Clearinghouse for the Investigation, and as we just looked at here, my friend can say there was a sighting in downtown Asheville. I can go on this website, and there was the sighting that she talked about on 1123 in Asheville. Rotating shape covered with white lights with a cylinder in the center. So I say somebody here on Earth is playing with us. I think it's these occultist people, and probably people that are mentioned all the way back in the Bible. Another picture in this book. I search out books, see if there's any I don't have. Is There Intelligent Life Beneath the Waters of the Earth by Ivan Sanderson. A fantastic book. Apparently, even back in, let's say, 1650 or something, when they had the Mayflower or whatever, those old wooden ships with the big sails, apparently flying saucers would come shooting up out of the water like that and gain some momentum and buzz along like this and actually buzz the ships and actually sometimes break a mast, cause some damage. So when the ship went back to England, and Lloyd's of London was the insurance company, they would file a report. Back in the 1600s, nobody knew what to think of it. So the oceans of the earth. See the picture there? Could some civilization or aliens live under there? Another book by Whitley Strieber, They're Already Here, The Greys. We keep talking about the Greys. Aleister Crowley, his little Hiawassee creature he was incommunicado with, who helped him write the Book of the Law, which says you can do whatever you want, murder people, rape children, and he was famous for apparently sex with children, killing them, drinking the blood, flesh, and having sexual orgies to do satanic rituals. Which was also stuff mentioned in Rabbi Marvin Antelman's book by the Sabbatan and the Frankist Jews that wanted to turn away from God and go to the dark side. They did these sexual satanic rituals. I guess they were the same people involved in creating the swingers and the early jazz and all the decadent stuff that was going on across the United States with all the liquor and problems, gambling and everybody else. And of course we know they own Hollywood, these particular type of Talmudic Jewish bankster type Jewish people, not to be confused with all the good Jewish people out there. So who are these people? Maybe they're not Jews, like it says in Revelation in the Bible. Jews who call themselves Jews but are not. And according to even the other material I went over, Benjamin Friedman, there's reason to suspect these people have some kind of weird DNA tick that causes them to be a little mentally deranged. From the Russian area, Ukraine, called Yiddish Jews, Ashkenazi Jews, which do not have, and they're white, they're not the same DNA as the Hebrew Jews, or the same color. Yet they dominate Israel. Weird. Alright, Situation Red. The UFO Siege. Leonard Stringfield, forward by Major Donald Keyhold. One of my favorite authors on UFOs. When was this book written? It's all about time. The programming of the world. They had to do all this stuff. 1977. In 1973, I'm reading the back of the book, there was a virtual epidemic of flying saucer sightings. 1973. What was most disturbing was that they seemed to be different. For instance, there was an increasing incidence of physical injury, dangerous interference, and outright abduction by observers by these mysterious beings. Now remember, this has everything to do with the New Age and the New World Order, in my opinion. That they're also having to do with the Jesuit Pope, the other Pope stepping down. All to do with all the pedophilia all over the planet and all the other bringing of the sexual decadence right out into the public eye. Used to be that you would go down to some club and see some girl pole dancing, and the guys are down by the shipyard or something. Now they want to bring that culture right into society everywhere. They want to destroy Christianity, as we've gone over numerous times in the Masonic books. And it's in those books it all targets King Solomon's temple, Hiram, Abiff, another king over there in the Israel area. This carefully documented book presents dozens of incredible yet unimpeachable cases of ordinary men and women who have been suddenly caught up in events stranger than wildest science fiction. Who are these visitors to our planet? What do they want? Why does the Air Force fear disclosure of the truth? These are the questions that have created Situation Red, a state of an emergency for man and his entire world. And I say with the French bombings and shootings recently, it's absolutely correct. Situation Red. The truth about flying saucers, Amy Mitchell. Eight astonishing pages of photos. When was this book written? Let's put everything into perspective. You don't see anything here in 1920, do you? 1967. A pyramid book. Why is the company called a pyramid book? Isn't there a pyramid on the dollar bill? You see the synchronicity, the matching of stuff here? Somebody's programming the mind of man. 4 Sicilians gaze upward at 2 identified flying objects in Sicilia. Let's see. The saucer photographed July 18th, 1952. Here's one here of the same saucer, 1952. The truth about flying saucers. Authentic eyewitness testimony from hundreds of responsible observers. What they actually saw during the year of the UFO, when day after day, night after night, something rode the skies of Earth, something not of this planet. Amy Mitchell, mathematician and engineer, presents baffling, extraordinary, yet undeniable facts about one of the most important topics of our time. Look at that, pyramid book. It's got a pyramid there on the bottom. New York. What's with that? We're going to be talking about New York in this book. And Montauk, and what some very sinister activities, children being abducted. While these books were being written in those years, by the way. 1967. The Mothman Prophecies. Compelling and genuinely frightening. Who are the mysterious Mothmen invading America in unidentified flying objects? John A. Keel. Look at that Mothman creature. Are we talking about sinister, satanic creatures? Interdimensional? Mothman Prophecies will jolt you with its startling evidence about the nature of the universe and the alien beings who visit it. There is unimpeachable testimony to prove the UFOs and the alien invaders are real. Only now are we learning the true meaning of the 7-foot-tall winged creatures that have appeared throughout history, all over the world, and most recently gathered in the American Midwest. The shocking connection between these Mothmen and one of the most tragic disasters of our times. The ancient Indian burial mounds that revealed a startling message. The strange role of the U.S. Air Force, the FBI, and the CIA in the giant cover-up of the terrifying truth. And much, much more as a world-renowned UFO expert at last puts together all the pieces to reveal exactly who the real masters of Earth are and what their plans for us are. When was this book written? 1975. Let's see if there's any kind of symbol in here. It says here, for once, government agencies may be telling the truth. Both the FBI and CIA vehemently deny responsibility for the secret agents who have visited unidentified flying objects sighters, trying to silence them, tapping their phones, and otherwise intimidating them. Who is then? Coming right out of the realms of the Masonic Lodges Illuminati, I suspect banksters, Zionists, Jesuits, and all these other creatures. This just happened to be in the row where I was grabbing some of my books. But how to read the aura, practice psychromy, telepathy, and clairvoyance. Learn to develop and perfect and control them with the most complete how-to manual of its kind. Want to learn how to be a psychic? See the aura around these bodies? Different colors? So all kinds of technologies that healers use to help people with problems. Read the aura. Perceive and understand the meaning of the glowing field of vital energy that surrounds all living creatures. Use psychometry. Read the psychic emanations emitting by all objects. Awaken to telepathy. Transmit and receive thoughts through the mind and the mind alone. Clairvoyance. Look into the past. I don't see any pictures in this book. Just stuff out there that people are not aware. And lastly, and I'll end this video with something we all know, but we need to acknowledge and get rid of the psychological resistances, which is part of our human nature, and the normalcy bias, and sticking our head in a hole like an ostrich. The wolf is still going to eat you if you stick your head in a hole. The invisible government. So all these things the government knows about. The stuff I'm going to be reading in the Black Sun, the government knows about. They're in control of all these technologies. The Federal Reserve, they crashed the system. They can take the economy up or take it down whenever they want. So when and if it crashes here in the United States, they crashed it. And they do the fear, saying the stock market's going to crash or this is going to happen. They're using fear to control we people. They're trying to destroy anybody's belief in Jesus or Christianity or any religion. Knowing, like how to read auras and all that we are spiritual beings, and those beliefs give us power. They don't want you to believe because they don't want you to have power. There's more to reality than people know. We are all spiritual beings, as I keep on saying. This series is Freemasonry and Satanism. The Freemasons, the lodges, and the Illuminati, and all those occult organizations, secrets, mystery schools of Babylon, as William Cooper, said in all his videos you can see on the internet, and wrote the book Beware of the Pale Horse. They don't want people to connect to God or to the spiritual realm of good people. They want everybody to be in fear and just hide. The Invisible Government by David Wise and Thomas Ross. The startling and disturbing book is the first full, authentic account of America's intelligence and espionage apparatus, its fantastic blunders, its incredible successes, and its terrifying power. And I say right now, this invisible government is being controlled out of the United Nations. They're controlling the United States. Pushing the Agenda 21, which we've gone over and we'll go over again. These sustainable development treaties and other laws and stuff they're promoting with money to our blackmail or bribe our politicians and local communities. Vietnam, the Bay of Pigs, Iran, Guantanamo, Indonesia, the CIA in action. In 1963, its budget was $4 billion. Not even the Congress knows how it was spent. It controls private companies, radio stations, a steamship company, and publishing house. Wish it said 4 million or 40 million or 400 million, but it says 4 billion. Jeez. And they're borrowing it from the Federal Reserve, and we citizens owe this money. And it's not spent on us, it's actually spent to destroy us. And we owe this money that's spent to destroy us and enslave us. It has overthrown the governments of at least 2 foreign powers. Its operations played a crucial role in the Kennedy-Nixon campaign. Many regard it as our first line of defense in the Cold War. Others regard it as the foremost peril to the American way of life, the invisible government. So what I say, and that's why I went through this great length on this first video in this book here, to talk about all these other things, because then it'll make this material make more sense when you put it into perspective and those different, you can see all the stuff I read and all the tabs here. Read the entire book. Quite interesting, and if true, we the people need to wake up. Thank you for watching my video. Rick Marrico reporting.